This might be a very basic question, but as someone who is not a lawyer, I'm curious about what this pardon means about the actual crimes Hunter is being pardoned for. Does this create any sort of legal precedent in terms of tax law, gun law, and how regular citizens interact with the law, and how law enforcement might interact with regular citizens when it comes to potential breaches in the law on tax and gun matters because there was a presidential pardon, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because those particular charges are indeed criminal offenses. Uh, as we know, he even pled guilty the uh, to the uh, to the tax charges. So while it's interesting because one of the reasons that Biden gave for pardoning his son is that his argument was this was an overreach and many individuals wouldn't even be prosecuted for this. And not every technical crime that is committed necessarily gets prosecuted. Sometimes things are worked out. Sometimes for example, a tax offense could potentially just be handled within the administrative agency. Are these full every time, every single form examined to make sure that, oh, you claim that you don't have a drug problem, you have a drug problem, we're going to prosecute you under this, purchasing a firearm. The argument by Biden was that, in fact, his son was especially targeted because of who he was. This prosecution would have never been brought against an ordinary citizen. So it's sort of twofold. One, would this really have brought against an ordinary citizen? But nonetheless, the pardon typically doesn't excuse conduct. We've seen every president issue pardons, and it doesn't necessarily speak to the nature of the offense itself. It doesn't suggest people are pardoned for drug offenses all the time. Maybe the sentencing was too harsh, but it doesn't necessarily indicate, oh, now everybody can, sell drugs and it's fine. So I don't think it's a reflection of the crimes themselves. It's just it was quite particular, I think, on the form, on the felony, gun form. And I don't know how closely the government scrutinizes every single person who applies for a firearm, whether they've had a drug problem, not had a drug problem. So that was, I think, what triggered the pardon itself. In that, at least according to President Biden, was that this was a targeted prosecution to begin with.